Welcome to the deep dive. We take a pile of information, sift through it, and pull out the key insights so you get informed fast. Today, we're diving into The Frozen River. It's a novel by Ariel Lawhon, you might have seen it, GMA book club pick, NPR Book of the Year, New York Times bestseller. Our goal here is to unpack the story, look at the history behind it, and really figure out why it struck such a chord. We've got book descriptions, reviews, reader comments, even a bit from the book itself.
Right. And what jumps out straight away from all this material is that, well, it's not just a straightforward historical novel. There are layers here. You've got a real historical figure, a midwife at the center, this gripping mystery, and some pretty sharp social commentary that still feels, well, relevant today.
Yeah.
Definitely invites you to look closer.
Okay, so let's dive in. The setting is Maine, 1789. The Kennebec River freezes over. But this isn't just any freeze. The excerpt we have calls it the Great Freeze, says it came a month early. It becomes known as the Year of the Long Winter. Sets a scene, doesn't it?
It really does. A very stark, isolating scene.
And then, bang, gets really interesting. A man's body is found, actually frozen in the ice. The description is pretty vivid. It says he's weighted down by soaked clothing and heavy leather boots. He floated downstream, then got trapped in its sluggish grip. Finally freezes solid, like 15 feet from the shore, his face just below the surface, lips parted, eyes wide open in surprise. It's quite an image.
It is. And, the way the body is found, those specific details, they matter, don't they? The sources hint at things like his hair being loose, a bit of lace reclaimed. It suggests insult on top of injury. This wasn't just some accident. We're told the man was reckless and impatient, had assailants in the forest, so the way he's found immediately signals foul play, potential murder. It sets the whole mystery in motion.
Yeah, not just a guy who fell in, it's deliberate. All right, so into this icy, suspicious scene steps our main character, Martha Ballard. The book is inspired by her actual diary, which is fascinating in itself. What did these sources tell us about her? Who was she in this community?
Well, Martha Ballard wasn't just anyone. The sources paint her as this well-respected 18th century midwife and healer, a really pivotal figure. Her job meant she was privy to much of what goes on behind closed doors in Hallowell. She saw things others didn't. And her diary, that's key. It's described as this meticulous record of every birth and death, crime and debacle in town. So she's not just a caregiver, she's a witness.
A chronicler.
A record keeper. Exactly. And the customer reviews really pick up on this, calling her a strong female character, emphasizing that the story is based on a true midwife's life. It adds this layer of authenticity.
And it seems like it's more than just her job, it's her personality, too. The editorial reviews call her a stalwart heroine, a truth speaker, even a justice seeker. Someone brave and outspoken about protecting the innocent. That really comes through.
It does, and readers clearly responded to that. You see comments loving Martha's strength and resilience, describing her as smart, witty, driven.
Yeah, like someone truly ahead of her time. Using her diary to document things others might ignore. Hashtag I fight for justice in a patriarchal world. Okay, so Martha, the midwife, gets called to examine this body in the ice. Standard procedure, maybe? But then there's a twist. Months before this, Martha wrote in her diary about an alleged rape. 2 prominent men in town were accused. And guess what? One of those accused men is the dead guy in the river.
Right, and this is where the story really digs into the power dynamics of the time. How does she pursue the truth in that kind of society? The sources say a local doctor dismisses her findings, calls the death an accident. He basically undermines her conclusion.
So she's pushed aside.
Essentially. It forces Martha to investigate this shocking murder on her own. And this really highlights what NPR called the unbalanced power dynamics of men and women, rich and poor. Think about it. This is an era when women can't even testify in court. Her word, her expertise is just dismissed by the male authority figure.
And it gets even more complicated for her personally, right? Her diary, the very thing that holds the truth.
Yes, it lands at the center of the scandal. Suddenly, her private record is potentially implicating people she knows, maybe even cares about. It forces her into this terrible choice about loyalty versus truth.
Wow. So it's not just about solving a crime, it's about navigating these really intense social pressures.
Precisely. And that's what makes it resonate, I think. Publishers Weekly points out how the book powerfully speaks to centuries-old inequities that remain, even now. Martha becomes this symbol, this unsung heroine, who refused to accept anything less than justice when women were expected to be silent.
So when a reader calls it a feminist manifesto, they're tapping into that core idea.
Exactly. It's showing this historical fight through a very personal, very compelling lens. It connects past struggles to ongoing ones. Hashtag tag legacy and the power of story.
So pulling it all together, this deep dive shows the frozen river is, well, more than some of its parts. It's not just history, not just mystery. It's called both historical fiction and a propulsive historical thriller. And readers seem to agree words like captivating and praise for the rich period detail come up a lot.
Yeah, and I think its real power, connecting back to the bigger picture, is how it gives voice to people often overlooked in history, especially women from that period. Reviewers noted the author presents these struggles masterfully without either glorifying or diminishing them. It feels authentic.
And the fact that it's rooted in a real person, Martha Ballard, and her actual diary, that really grounds it.
It absolutely does. It blurs that line between fact and fiction in a really engaging way.
Mhm.
As one review said, the factual stuff is woven into the narrative seamlessly. You feel like you're uncovering something real.
What I found really cool was how many readers mentioned going off to Google things after reading it. Looking up 18th century Maine, Martha Ballard herself, it sparks that curiosity.
Definitely, it draws you in.
And people love the writing itself too. Smooth, poetic, well-written, makes it a page-turner, even when dealing with some, pretty heavy themes.
Right, it handles difficult subjects with skill.
So, okay, wrapping this up, what's the takeaway for you listening? The Frozen River isn't just a good story. It really shows the impact one person can have fighting for justice, even when the odds are stacked against them. It shines a light on a figure most of us never knew existed and the tough realities of life back then. It's about integrity, really.
That leaves you with a question, I think, or maybe a couple. First, when so much history is lost or written only by the powerful, how incredibly important are personal accounts like Martha's diary for preserving those hidden details, those other perspectives? And maybe also, what can we still learn from someone like Martha Ballard and her struggles as we face the inequities that, let's be honest, still exist today? Something to think about.